This video is how to create a voucher list. Now, before we create a voucher list, first let's talk about the purpose of voucher lists in the SafeXPro system and what it can do for you. First, they allow you to organize your vouchers for ease of tracking and management. So consider a voucher list like a manila folder that you have in your office. No different than the manila folder. You may have all of your voucher copies that you keep organized in your filing cabinet. A voucher list is like that manila folder, but just in a virtual filing cabinet for you. It allows you to organize by department or by location. For example, if you want to organize and know, I'm going to issue vouchers for shipping separate from receiving, you can have two different voucher lists and you can track that way. Or if you have a location in two different cities, you can create a voucher list for each location. And that way, for tracking, for organization, for management, for reporting, you have everything separated for you by the voucher list versus you have to do that yourself manually. In addition, many of our customers like to run their business by purchase order. So you have the ability to create a voucher list by purchase order, adding the purchase order to that voucher list, which then eventually will be added to the voucher itself and then on the invoice when it comes into your billing department, which really saves you time as far as worrying about how those vouchers are redeemed and how they get billed to your billing department. All voucher lists have an expiration date. Now, this expiration date is important because it's when the vouchers will expire. If the vouchers haven't been redeemed, they will expire in order to protect you from eligibility practices. Expiration dates should match the eligibility of the voucher. Our recommendation is, for example, if you are an annual voucher issuer, you give them out July 1st every year, then you would make your voucher list expire June 30th. And that means any voucher you issue would expire June 30th, or if they redeemed it, it would expire the moment that they redeem it. This also gives you the ability, if you have new hires come in during that year, you're always issuing vouchers against the same voucher list. So it's really easy for tracking purposes. You can create as many voucher lists as you desire. Most of our customers prefer just a single voucher list per year, per issuance of those vouchers. Sometimes they want those vouchers to be good for 30 days. Sometimes they want them to be good for 1 year. That's totally up to you. So you can have one voucher list. You can have dozens of vouchers lists. That's completely up to you. That's the flexibility of SafeXPro. You can create these voucher lists for you. In fact, we're going to show you how to do that in this video, or Workwear Safety Shoes can do them as well. So if you want to be completely hands-off and you want us to manage the program for you completely, you simply just contact us, tell us what you need. We will create the voucher list and issue it out. We'll even issue vouchers for you if that's what you need us to do. But we built our system to be completely self-service for those of you who like to have control over the entire process. The last note that we want to make here is that all voucher list creation is real-time, meaning you're building these things into our cloud environment. Our entire operation runs off of this cloud database, meaning that if you create a voucher list and issue a voucher against it to a new hire in your office, by the time they reach our store, that voucher is already active and live in our system. As you'll see in our demonstration here in just a second, when we actually create that voucher, you'll see that it immediately creates that voucher list and populates it for you. So let's go create a voucher list. To do that, you come to the same website that your employees come to when they want to redeem the voucher. You go to Account Login, and you enter your information to log in for your account. Now, the difference is when an employee logs in, they only have access to part of the site. When you log in, you have a separate access called Voucher Management, which is this button right here. So I click on Voucher Management, and you'll see that it brings up all the list of my different voucher lists that I've created, as well as all the information about all my different vouchers that I have out there. So this video is to say I want to create a new voucher list. So I simply click here, Create New Voucher List. I will name the voucher list whatever works for me. It's your organizational style. It's your organizational program. We give you complete control over what you want to name it. So for example, you might want to call this the logistics team, For example, you might want to call this group the forklift guys. And they have a special requirement, they have a special need, you give them a different subsidy together, whatever the case may be, but you want to organize them a little bit differently. So that's the name of this particular list for you. You could call it shipping, receiving, you could just call it whatever you wanted. Now, the one thing that we recommend as a best practice is make sure in your naming convention that you create what else is going on here, like the eligibility time of that. So for example, if this is forklift for FY20, then we'll know that this is forklift for the entire fiscal year, or maybe it's FY21. Or you can even say this is for Q2 2020. And therefore, I'll know when I'm looking at my voucher list which one to choose in order to issue vouchers against. Now, remember earlier we talked about adding a PO to all the vouchers. If you populate a value here, this value will then be put on the voucher when you issue it, available to be seen at any of our locations. As well, we'll take that PO number and put it onto the invoice when we send it through for payment into your billing department. The voucher list notes section right here is really for you to put any kind of notes to help you remember what you did, right? So for example, you might say, well, this is my new hires only list, okay? And that's just a note for you. That is only to help you if you can't remember, or if you have more than one person on your team who's issuing vouchers, that they would all be able to make sure they're issuing vouchers against the correct list. Now, the expiration date is controllable by you. I can make this whatever I want, but since we said this was a Q2 kind of thing, we're just going to make that expire June 30th. We pick the requirements group that we're interested in issuing this against. Of course, we may have more than one requirements group. Now, where does that come in? Well, there's another video to help you understand requirements groups, of course. But in this scenario, remember, SafeXPro not only manages eligibility, which is what we're doing in the voucher list, it also manages compliance. It's one thing to make sure employee comes in and it's one thing to have an employee use a voucher. It's a completely different thing to make sure he uses the voucher appropriately. Now, what I mean by that is that if the requirements that you have placed for your safety shoes for your program mean that they have to have a metatarsal guard in the boot, what we do with the requirements group is we lock down and make sure that that's what happens, so that if an employee tries to buy a boot that doesn't have a metatarsal guard issued against this voucher list and this requirements group, that it will not allow the voucher to apply. So not only are you getting protection on eligibility, are they eligible to use it or not, you're also getting protection on requirements to maintain that they are buying the right boot, which helps you to know that if you send them through the voucher system at Workwear Safety Shoes through SafeXPro, there's nothing to worry about. I simply come here now and save my voucher list. That easy. And as we come back out to the screen, what you'll see is that voucher list I just created is now there. There's Forklift 2020. If I click on Forklift 2020, it gives me kind of a dashboard list. You'll see that there have been none redeemed. Of course, I have no current active vouchers because we haven't issued vouchers against this list yet, but it also will tell me how many are out there outstanding. If I've created some active ones, but I've had some redeemed, some not, they'll show me what has been redeemed as far as what they spent. It'll show you what you have left, so that if you're get a question from your finance department on where you are on your safety footwear program budget, you'd be able to come and look at your voucher list and find out that exact information for them, saying, I've had this many vouchers redeemed for this dollar amount, and there's about this much more to go. And you can show them how you're managing the budget appropriately. I can edit this list details. In fact, sometimes we found that when one person creates the voucher list, someone else in the company may not understand what that voucher list is for, and so they want to add a new naming convention. That's really easy to do. I can come in here and I can create a new name for that list, edit that information there, and submit that change for someone to see right here.